Okay, no intro today. We got a lot to talk about. I'm going to go through the March 1st through 3rd verification and talk about our upcoming possible event on the 15th through 20th. Remember, what I'm going to go through on this event is analysis only. It's not a forecast. I need to stress that enough. Okay, so let's get started here. Verification. I know this map's a little bit hard to understand. This is the NOH RSC Great Site. Some think they inflate their snowfall amounts a little bit. I kind of smoothed out the data because some of these little holes and stuff really shouldn't exist. And it's because of the way the data is interpolated based on some of the parameterization and so forth. The fact that you're taking satellite observed reports, the totals that are reported into the storm reports and the MADIS stations and their groundwater data and so forth, and you sort of put the whole thing together. So I've smoothed it out to show what I think is a pretty accurate representation of where the heaviest snowfall was. Again, you can see a lot of 12-inch areas in here, but the general 6-inch plus area runs all in through here like this. And overall, my forecast probably wasn't that bad a forecast. I'd give it a C. You're welcome to disagree on that one. You're entitled to that opinion. That's what making a forecast is about, and putting it out to the public and so forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual forecast. This was the first guess, and I've learned some lessons from this storm. I wish that I had stuck with my first guess, because if I had done this, my only errors would have been I would have been underdone in here, and I would have been a little bit too overzealous with this this back edge in here, as I thought that there was going to be less of a split between the two features and more of a first wave that was going to cause overrunning all in through here. But that didn't work out, and that's that. All right, moving back here to the first call forecast. That's just ugly. That's a D. Moving on. And to the final call, which is the one that actually gets graded. And remember, I grade this as C because I was too wide with this band in here. Basically, chop off this this part in here, and it becomes a pretty good forecast. Got the gradient down. Good with that. Again, a couple lessons that I've learned. No more doing this first call, first guess, first whatever, final call stuff. I'm going to be issuing one forecast and one forecast only from now on, and I will make modifications to it if need be as we get closer to the event, and that forecast will be issued between 24 and 48 hours prior to the event, depending on the complexity. And the other thing is, I am taking off that. You're no longer going to see the upper plus. You're going to see more, because technically that's not a bad forecast calling for 12 to 24 plus. Okay, I did highlight some higher amounts, but nevertheless, if I call for 12 plus, I think that'll make a lot of people more happy, even though it's the same darn thing. And, people can find whatever reason they want to bitch about not get, I didn't get the higher amounts, whatever. That's just some things that I decided to do. But this is a C. Going back here to the first call, this would be a solid B plus, at least in my mind. Or the first guess, rather. Okay. Now, let's break down this storm a little bit. Why it did what it did. Well, at least what it did. Here we can see, here's the first wave in here. My error. I thought, did it again. I'm going to hurt myself here for not pausing the thing. My error. Okay. You can see the... here's the first wave. Remember, I said this would be warm air advection with the first system, but you can see this connection in here that I thought was going to stay together. Instead, it didn't. You can see it broke up. Here comes the first wave. It was a little bit further east than I had thought as well. Here comes the deformation axis. Here comes the convective plume coming out of the south. Okay, let's keep going here. And you can see first wave gets out of the way. Now, look at this. If I were to make a forecast based on this, I'd say, darn, that looks like a pretty good area that's going to receive the heaviest snows, right? Maybe. Well, let's go and see what happens. As you can see, for probably, and I can't 100% figure out why it happened, but probably due to orographic effects, this stuff weakens in here, strengthens in here. Of course, you can see here's the convective plume. Remember I said where these two intersected was where the heaviest snowfall was going to be, and sure enough, that is where the heaviest snowfall was. Sorry for the time mishaps. A couple things I didn't see. Dry slot. Ugh, I didn't see that. That kept down the mounts quite a bit. And here's the upper level low, which, as I said, could deliver up to 6 inches. And again, the other thing that happened with this system, even once the upper level low passed, was we had this little piece of energy that dived down, and we started to get a little phasing going on, and so it broke up. And here's this nice little third wave that gave like an additional inch or so to the DC area and so forth. So that's all for this storm. Let's move on. Let's take a look at what's going to go on possibly for the March 15th through 20th period. All right. Here's the 72-hour Euro, and I want to direct you to the post I made a couple days before about what had to happen for this event to come together. It's linked in the bottom of this, and you can see it, and you can see the ideas that I highlighted. Negative NAO signature, right in here. Look at this block over Greenland. And remember I said that it had to retrograde. Couple things that happened. It had to retrograde. We had to get a 50 low established out here. I don't think I specifically highlighted that. We had to get a positive PNA, or at least a rising PNA. And this energy had to be more consolidated. So look on through 96 hours. What happens? Blocks beginning to retrograde. Here's your nice negative NAO signature going on in here. I'm still not sure what to do with this first piece out front. Models seem to be pretty consistent on wanting to do that. I'm not sure why. I've seen that happen a lot of times before. A lot of models tend to have feedback errors where they'll jump too much energy out front. So my gut would be that this is further back and you have a configuration that looks something more like this with less energy out here. But nevertheless, this doesn't look to screw things up too much. It's a detail that will work out once we get further on in the period for the forecast. But again, you can see here's first system trying to become a 50-50 low, and it moves into the 50-50 position. Good deal there. And here's the energy coming out front with something sitting in here maybe, and rain and so forth going on. I have a hard time buying that, really. With this sort of high up here, and look at that nice positive PNA. Here's your negative NAO signature again. I have problems with that one. I really do. It could be correct, but I think we'll see as we get closer. The trend has been to consolidate this energy further and further back on all the models. So my idea would be, again, probably for the map to look something more like this, as opposed to having this other feature in here. And my personal feeling is that we could have a decent overrunning event from Dallas, Texas, up to New York City, and about 100 miles either side of that line. Well, not either side of the line. Pretty much that's the center. Probably should extend that up into there. Nevertheless, that's where I think that there could be March 16th, 17th, or 15th, 16th rather, some sort of fun and games going on with an overrunning event, and snow and ice in that corridor. We'll see. I'm not banking on that yet, but it's certainly on my mind. You can see here's the retrograding block sitting in here. New 50-50 low getting ready to form. Negative NAO signature is weakening a bit, but it's still there. And look at that nice PNA ridge. Look at that nice positive PNA. So what do we get? Piece that cuts off here. Northern branch dives down. Whoop-de-doo. And voila. Storm off the coast. Negatively tilted trough. Block in here. 50-50 low. Negative NAO. Positive PNA. Very positive Arctic oscillation. But this looks pretty for the East Coast. If this were to verify verbatim, again, I think that there could be too much junk going on in here, but we'll see. And for those of you who, I will leave you with this, inch of snow in DC. I think that might be overdone. Well, an inch of QPF, which would be all snow at this point in DC. That's it.